sex trafficking, sexual assault, rape. What do those three things have in common? Those are things that accusers have accused Matt Gaetz, Pete Hegseth, and yes, even Donald Trump of. And between the three of them, there's a slew of NDAs and payments to accusers to silence them. And it doesn't stop there, because Trump has nominated these men to positions of power where their decisions could affect our lives. Let that sink in for a minute. These men, who are not qualified at all to do any of these jobs or run any of these departments, are also an inherent danger to women. This isn't about politics. If you've ever been a victim of sexual abuse or sexual assault, or you love somebody who has, this is personal. It's personal to me. Trump's decision sends a chilling message to the women of America that his disdain for women and his willingness to uphold a culture of power and silence and harm is what we have to look forward to for the next 4 years. In this episode of Political Critical Thinking, we're going to get to the truth, and we're going to point out exactly step by step how these decisions are going to affect our lives. So welcome back. I'm Stephanie Beninati. Let's talk about Matt Gaetz. Yes, he stepped down. That doesn't negate the fact that Donald Trump nominated him to run the Department of Justice. He nominated him because, just like they said in Project 2025, they want loyalists. And he nominated somebody who has allegations of sex trafficking, in my opinion, to send a message to the American women that we don't give a shit about you and we're coming for you. Now, it's also important to note about Matt Gaetz that although he does have his law license, he's never significantly practiced law. He's never really even tried a case. He's never been a judge. He has absolutely zero qualifications. So really, it's just a big middle finger to the American people. So let's be clear. Donald Trump cares more about loyalists than he cares about anything else. That's what he wants. He wants somebody who's going to push his agenda or not push back on his agenda. And Pam Bondi will not push back. But just because she's a woman doesn't mean that she's not a misogynist. It doesn't mean that she doesn't hate women. And doesn't mean that she won't do whatever she can for Donald Trump to destroy the American women. Women historically have been on the giving end of hurting other women. So let's be clear. There's a whole women's movement whose goal it is to control and hurt other women. So this is not just a man issue. This is also a woman issue. Men could not do what they needed to do without the help and often the silence of other women. Now let's talk about Pete Hegseth, a Fox News host. Really. This is who should be in charge of the Department of Defense, who should really run the whole military. He doesn't even know how to run any organization. He ran one organization for 10 years, and he basically bankrupted. Again, a big middle finger to the American people. Donald Trump does not give a shit about us or our safety in any way. It's completely about grifting and implementing Project 2025. When Pete Hegseth takes the Department of Defense and he was running it, there's no longer going to be anybody to push back against Donald Trump to use the military against the American people, which is something he tried to do in his first 4 years.
In terms of election day, I think the bigger problem are the people from within. We have some very bad people. We have some sick people, radical left lunatics. And I think they're and it should be very easily handled by, if necessary, by National Guard, or if really necessary, by the military.
So this is something that's important for all Americans to be concerned about. Despite the fact that he's never held a high-ranking military position, he's never successfully run any organization, he has said very disturbing things about women. He's been accused of rape. He's paid off his accusers. He's got NDAs that he will not release women from to speak on his behalf. His own mother wrote him an email 7 years ago saying he was an abuser of women and just a colossal, horrible person and disappointment. I'm paraphrasing. Does not matter that she went on Fox News recently to recant that. That does not matter. She said that. What mother would say that to her own son? You have to be passionate about how you feel to write an email to your son about what a horrible person he is. I mean, there has to be like some really strong feelings, because that's literally a commentary on how you are as a mother and what you did wrong. So to put that in writing to your son is powerful. And I think that should not be overlooked. So not only have both of these men are highly unqualified, have been accused, have evidence against them, not just accused once, but multiple times, We have the receipts, like literally, we have Venmo receipts. We have literal receipts from Matt Gaetz paying women. An ethics committee has released the report. I think everybody should look at it. It's pretty damning. And I think the issue is that with all of the conversations geared towards Democrats and their imaginary bad behavior of pedophilia and Satan cabal type of things, there are no literal receipts. There's no actual evidence. Nobody's ever come forward. There's nothing but conspiracy and rumors on the internet. That's it. With Republicans, with MAGA, there's receipts, there's literal documentation and women coming forward saying that these men have abused them. Not to mention the alcohol and drug abuse, the sex-fueled parties. I mean, all of these things documented, documented, documented. What does that say about Trump's priorities? What does it say about how he thinks about women or the American people? He doesn't care, which is what we've been trying to say for years and years and years. He doesn't give a shit about us. He doesn't care about the American people. It's all about control and power and implementing Project 2025. All right, let's move on. So let's talk about Donald Trump and the 28 women that came out against him saying that he did exactly what he said he did on the Access Hollywood tapes. He grabbed them, he came up on them, he kissed them. He said he did it. They said he did it. He says they let you do it. Well, do they let you, or are they just paralyzed in fear and don't say anything? This is a huge man. He is aggressive. He's powerful. There is a significant difference in power struggle there. And when a man like that comes up on a woman, a lot of times they don't know how to behave. It's scary, really, to be honest. I know that happened to me, where men come up to you and they think that they can just take any liberty that they want, and you're paralyzed. You don't know what to do. You don't expect some 6-foot-tall man who's far more powerful than you are to just come up on you and grab you like that. But the women are not believed. When they come forward, they get death threats. They have to hire security for their families. They have to hire attorneys. Their whole world is turned upside down. But the men are elevated to positions of power. And for people who don't believe the women, for people who rolled their eyes at the Me Too movement, let me tell you a little something about what I know. Women aren't believed. I wasn't believed. I know a little something about that, and I don't appreciate it. Women who have been abused don't appreciate it. The men who love those women don't appreciate it. It's up, okay? Believe the women. There's no reason to lie. They are not better off for telling the truth. They're not better off for coming forward. The other thing I want to bring up, because it's not talked about enough, but the relationship between Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump. Picture after picture after picture of the two of them together. A book that came out recently with Jeffrey Epstein on tape saying how good of friends that him and Trump were. That relationship has not been really looked at to the level it should be. When Trump was asked by Fox News if he would release the Jeffrey Epstein file, he basically said no. Trump's not going to release those files because he knows he is accountable. I think it would be a good idea to start putting boundaries around your relationships with MAGA. If you were sexually abused, if you were sexually assaulted, if somebody you love was sexually abused or sexually assaulted, you can use that as a reason why there needs to be boundaries around your relationship. The fact that somebody you know in your life voted to put in office a predator of women, whether they believe them or not, the fact that they don't believe them is again another issue because they don't believe women. The fact that they choose to believe Donald Trump over 28 plus women, and let's be honest, there's a lot more than 28. That's just probably the ones who had the courage to come forward. But I'm sure that there's a lot more. The fact that they chose to believe Donald Trump instead of these women, that's an issue. That's the same people, like I said, who rolled their eyes at the Me Too movement. So these people have a problem with women coming forward, with women being strong, and that should seriously alarm you. If you have daughters, that should alarm you. If you have granddaughters, that should alarm you. You should say something to them. You should speak your mind and say, hey, this isn't okay. It doesn't mean that, we're not going to be in each other's life, but you need to know that there's boundaries here. because those beliefs seep into your world if you allow it, if you don't put some sort of boundaries around it. So I encourage all of you people who are anti-MAGA, anti-Trump, who are staying silent right now to speak up. I spoke up. I wrote a letter to my family. I thought it was a very loving letter, but I wrote it to both sides of my family. Now, there are more things that I've come to understand since I wrote that letter, like about my sexual abuse and how that has triggered me. I have spoken to women who and men who weren't sexually abused, but were verbally or physically abused. And to them, having somebody who's that aggressive and cruel and mean in the White House has deeply affected them, has deeply affected their psyche. It affected them the first 4 years. So it's definitely affecting them now, again, that this could happen. To have this very aggressive, loud person is a trigger for them based on their experiences as a child. So it's hard. It's hard on a lot of people. It's not politics. It's personal. So let's talk about Project 2025, the over 900-page conservative doctrine that is being implemented right now that Donald Trump said he doesn't know anything about, yet he's putting architects of this manifesto in his administration. So let's be clear. He knows about it. It has been something that's been in works for 50 plus years. Basically, since 1979 is what they said, right after the civil rights and the equal rights movement took hold, they said to themselves, the conservative movement, we need to get back to family values. The family values are breaking down the system. I understand a lot of people believe that. In a way, I believe that. But it's not the government's job to govern morality. It's not freedom to tell people how they should live, how they should marry, how they should give birth, when they should give birth. Now, the government can do things to improve the quality of people's lives. And throughout this series of political critical thinking, we're going to dive into how the Republican Party, and especially MAGA, has done everything that they could to make our lives more difficult, more challenging, and oppress us. We need to start understanding what's happening. We need to figure out what's going on with this craziness. It's not Trump deranged syndrome. It's like an ongoing, long plan that started in 1979 that has been in the works for 50 plus years to get us to where we are today. And like they said in Project 2025, the introduction, they have 2 years. They know they have 2 years. So my goal is to engage you and to activate you to start talking to your friends and your neighbors and to get involved, however that is. Every little piece helps. We need bite-sized bits of information that are facts, that are true, that we can talk to people about. My thought is, we're not going to change MAGA. MAGA's gone. They're long gone. If they come back, great. What we need to do is we need to touch the other 100 million people who either didn't vote or voted third party or just are checked out and don't know what the fuck is going on. We have to step up. The next thing that I want to point out before I go is that the Biden and Harris administration invested billions of dollars in women. They invested in studying women's health because that's never been done. It's really important to understand that we die because there's not enough information about our anatomy. And women of color die something like 3 times more. The Democratic Party invests in women. They want us to have autonomy. They want education for us. They want us to be healthy. It's important to know to take talking points and be able to quickly and easily have those conversations with people. Do not ever let Trump and his administration take credit, because a lot of these things are going to come to fruition over the next couple of years. So we cannot let him do that like he did with Obama, taking credit for all of Obama's accomplishments. But we need to be vigilant. We've got 2 years, and a lot of damage can be done in 2 years. I'm hoping that they're, so disorganized they can't get it together. But we've got 2 years, folks. We need to start having these conversations. We need to find our brave. We got to find our brave, people. We got to get brave. It's scary. I'm scared. I'm not going to lie. I get scared too. But we got to find our brave. So go out there, have conversations, and wait for the next video. It's Trump's war on Afghani women and how Trump's decisions completely destroyed their lives. So we'll see you in that video. Thanks. Bye.